Glad you're with us here tonight. My name's Aurea McGarry, and I'll be your host this evening. I am so excited to bring this episode to you this evening because we have a power-packed episode for you filled with hope, with a capital H. We have a woman who tried to commit suicide twice, and she has written a book called When Someone You Love Wants to Die. We have a survivor of a gas explosion at 14 years of age who has created a life of hope for those who have been afflicted in burns as well. And as always, we have amazing music, and tonight is no exception to that. We are bringing you right now, as to open the show, Greg Freeman singing Nothing Can Separate Me. Enjoy.
What can come between me and someone who for me would give his only son? What is from my past or what is to come could never stop the work that you have begun. High above, breathtaking vistas, deep within the darkest canyon. Neither earth nor sky above could ever separate me from your love.
Never separate me.
You are with me in trials besetting, always waiting with arms outstretching. Almighty God, who is and was, nothing can separate me from your love. Who's the healer of my broken heart? Second chances for a brand new start. You put together what is torn apart, and you go the distance when I've gone too far. High above, breathtaking vistas, deep within the darkest canyon. Neither earth nor sky above could ever separate me from your love.
Never separate me.
You are with me in trials besetting, always waiting with arms outstretching. Almighty God, who is and was, nothing can separate me from your love. High above, breathtaking vistas, deep within the darkest canyon. Neither earth nor sky above could ever separate me from your love.
Never separate me.
You are with me in trials besetting, always waiting with arms outstretching. Almighty God, who is and was, nothing can separate me. Hey, nothing can separate me. Nothing can separate me. Nothing can separate me from your love. Nothing can separate me. Nothing can separate me. Nothing can separate me from your love.
Thank you, Greg. That was beautiful. And we're going to hear more from Greg. And he's going to be right here in these chairs with me at the very end of the show. So don't go away. Going to hear wonderful testimony as well. But first up, we have none other than the author of the book that I'm so excited to talk to her about this, When Someone You Love Wants to Die, by Dr. Karla Hylton Dixon. Dr. Karla, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a
Oh,
pleasure.
oh, it's our pleasure. It's our honor. When my friend told me about you, it's like, yes, you'd be such a good friend and person and good fit for this show, because you are a survivor. You are giving people hope, because we've all, and as Christians, there's no perfect life. There's no life, oh, we're Christian, nothing bad happens to us. We're just, great, just pray about it. We're good. We go through all the steps, all the things, and sometimes we feel guilty if we need to seek out help, or we feel I shouldn't be going through this. I'm a Christian, I have faith. God should just be able to miraculously just lift me up and I'll be okay. So talk to us a little bit about your story and what got you to the point to say, I'm done with this life.
Well, so Aurea, I grew up in Jamaica, and I had a tumultuous childhood, starting out with a harrowing home invasion where I was taken. The entire family was taken from the home.
Oh my gosh.
I was 5 years old.
Wow.
So I have suffered traumatic experiences throughout my childhood and then into adulthood. I do not believe that at the age of 5 I was equipped to handle such trauma. And living in Jamaica at the time, there was not much help available, for PTSD. So I grew up with a great fear of abandonment, because there it was that at 5 years old, I saw how life could end.
No
Because
kidding.
we were threatened. There were 9 armed men.
Yeah, tell us about
surrounding
that, because
us.
people can say, wait a minute, you were abducted. Rewind for a second. What happened?
Okay, so my parents worked on a sugar estate, and my mother basically had the key to a vault that held a lot of money at that particular time.
Wow.
And it was well organized. They came from overseas to get my mom to open this vault to allow them access to this money. And so they abducted the family, taking my mother to the office to get access to this vault. They did not end up succeeding, but it was about 2 hours being taken away from the home.
Oh my God, must have been terrifying.
With 9 armed men surrounding you,
How did you get rescued?
They ended up firing some shots, and police got involved, and they had their getaway cars, and they got away. I go through that entire story in the book, The Unvarnished Truth.
Oh, yes, I got this one right here.
Yes.
A purpose in the pain. Wow.
Because it was a long, arduous ordeal, but I went through that. We survived, everybody. We were unharmed physically.
Was that like a one-day event, or was it a couple of days?
No, a one day. A one
Longest day
day,
of your
yes.
life,
But,
probably.
the longest day in my life.
5.
At 5, and as life would have it, when I myself was an adult and my daughter was 5 years old, we went through a robbery with armed men again. Yes, it was just like, nothing as terrible as that one, but still, just to know that.
I don't know if there's a level to armed men and being robbed. If there's a level, like that's bad all the way around.
My own daughter was 5 years old, and we had to go through that again, But it shows you that the journey is never going to be straight. Mm-hmm. It's filled with so many obstacles, so many twists and turns, things you never imagine that could happen, and yet they do.
Is that what led you into being a doctor? And I know you're into mental health and healing. Did this journey kind of lead you to helping people? Because you're talking about PTSD that's probably still there. We're always dealing with something.
Of course.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I should clarify that I actually have a doctorate in biotechnology.
Oh, okay.
So I am actually a scientist. So I was never trained in the mental health space. But again, it shows you how God
Life
works.
of Hard Knocks trains you for
How
that.
God works, I would never think that I would be a mental health coach,
Okay.
But being trained in science, I did a lot of research about mental health issues because I was suffering from suicidal ideation, from a very young age, actually.
Well, how old were you when you started thinking about it?
I believe I was around 12 years old.
Really?
You know, so many other traumatic events happened during my early childhood. I grew up in a family, you know, I experienced domestic violence. My father was an alcoholic, you know, and
Sure.
so there were many obstacles, you know.
You an only child? Did you say your brothers and sisters?
No, I'm the eldest child of 4. I have 3 brothers. And
So they were really little that day of abduction. 'Cause if you were 5.
at the time when I was 5, only my younger brother Dave, he was 2 years
2,
old
okay.
at that time. The other 2 weren't yet born.
Okay, I got you. So you
Right,
two went through that. All right.
Right. I also ended up getting married at a very young age of 22. And that marriage ended up being also very traumatic. I personally believe, this has never been officially said, but I believe that I was married to a narcissist. That's my assessment. And I suffered a lot of emotional abuse, financial abuse. I was just a shell of a human being.
How long were you married?
I was married for 27 years before we separated, yes.
Gosh. Wow. And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
You have 1 girl, 2 girls?
One boy who is 30 years old and 1 girl who is 26 years
Okay.
old.
So let's go back to where did you were thinking of suicide at 12? I know you attempted it twice. Obviously, we were talking about that earlier. You failed. Thank God.
Yes.
You failed at it. But let's talk about that because many of the viewers, like this book says, when someone you know wants to die, it's not always yourself. It might be somebody they know, and they need to kind of walk through what were you feeling and what stopped you, what didn't go right, and then you attempted it again. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, okay, the first attempt happened during my marriage, my first marriage, and it was an impulsive attempt.
Okay.
Even though I have always thought about it, it
terrible. I always
wasn't
thought
well
about it.
planned. My husband at the time and I had a very serious argument. He was calling me many different names, you know, and I impulsively took some pills.
Okay.
I was hospitalized only for a day. The second attempt, no.
Wait, before you go to the second attempt, did that, because I've been where you've been as far as like divorcing way back when in my 20s, probably early 30s, to a narcissist, and I know how they think and what the situation. Did that make him more mad? Did that make things worse at that moment? Because I want you to really give people hope, because I'm sure there's other people thinking, especially women, thinking this is a way out. This is more than I can handle.
No, this is not a way out, but I can tell you this is definitely not a way out.
Thank you.
But I believe my husband at the time, was very compassionate at the time.
Okay.
Right? Maybe for the first week after.
And what
then
happened?
things returned
Of course,
back to normal, you know, back to how
Your
they-
normal, yes.
Right, my
Okay.
normal, right.
Okay.
This second attempt now, Aurea, this was well planned, should have worked.
Glad it didn't.
It didn't work yet.
Glad it didn't.
This occurred during my separation into divorce. So I had already moved out of the matrimonial home, so
Okay.
we were in the process of getting a divorce.
Okay.
You know, I lost my identity. Things just shattered suddenly. After 27 years of marriage, I knew myself to be mother, wife, primarily, okay? Because I wasn't even working at the time. Even though I had a doctorate, I had stayed home to look after children,
Yeah,
which
you
I
did.
loved, which was
Sure,
my
of course.
greatest
But your whole identities
joy.
in this family.
So
and
this was my
position.
identity, you know? And suddenly I lost it. But more importantly, what happened was totally unexpected. I was shattered. My adult children at the time estranged themselves from me.
Oh, no.
That now was something I did not know how to deal with. I just did not know how to deal with that. You know, I could lose money, I could lose the prestige, I could lose the identity.
Lose the husband, but not the
lose
children.
husband, but not the children. And at that time, I thought my only choice, was, the only control I had then, was whether I lived or died. Because I couldn't make them talk to me. I couldn't make them come back into my life. But I could decide, or so I thought, I could decide whether I lived or I died.
Wow.
And so I planned. I did my research. I knew how much would do it, what. I don't want to give anybody ideas.
No, don't give anybody ideas.
But
no recipes here.
No recipes, right. But, you know, I had it down.
But it did fail, so you can't give them a recipe for failure.
It failed. A day later, I woke up in the ICU with blinding lights around me, with all these faces and tubes running from my heart, from my hand, from everywhere, and I was alive. I was not happy to be alive. I was not happy to be alive. You know, I really was not. But over time, I realized that my life could only have been spared for a purpose, for a reason. Because the doctors thought I would have been brain damaged, perhaps.
Wow.
They did not think I would come back to being a full,
functioning
100% functioning human.
Wow.
Right? But I did. And over time, it was gradual. My own spiritual awakening occurred. I recognized the hand of God.
Were you a Christian before that, or is this what brought you to the Lord and brought you to your faith?
I was always brought up in a Christian home. I was always at church, but I cannot say that I was truly born again in God. But after the second suicide attempt, and, you know, learning more about myself, learning to deal with all the traumatic events, learning to deal with estrangement, learning to deal with divorce, I realized that God had never left my side, even though I thought he had, right? Even though that was how it appeared. And slowly, but surely, I put the pieces back together, and I have found my purpose in helping others now. I realized it started out by helping students, actually.
Really?
I started tutoring in science, because that's my field, right? And then it evolved. I realized also these students, I wasn't just teaching them, I was mentoring them. They grew to love me. And I realized even if my biological children were not necessarily speaking to me at that particular time, there was something else for me to do.
Right.
And
that's
where purpose came in. And as God would have it, it evolved in me writing the first book, The Unvarnished Truth.
Yes, I love this.
And persons started to reach out to me. They wanted to know how I did it. You know, and they found that it helped put the words for them. They're having similar experiences, but my book helped them to articulate what they are going through and help them with the strength to leave that narcissistic husband, for example.
Exactly.
Right.
What is the main point of, somebody's going to pick up this book, the first one we're going to talk about, we're going to get to the other one too, The Unvarnished Truth. I love it says purpose in the pain. You really found your purpose going through this pain. And for a mother, nothing's worse than losing a child, even if it's estrangement and they're still here on this earth, but they're choosing not to be with you. What is one thing that a reader will take from this book that they need if they're going through something?
That you're never too shattered.
Aww.
Never too broken to not be pulled out of that abyss. You can come out of it.
I love that.
God will reach out. God will reach his hand into the depths of despair.
There's nothing too low he can't reach,
There is nothing
too.
too low he
He can
can't
reach you.
reach, and you can find purpose.
I love that. Well, I know we don't have too much more time left, but I want to get into also, you wrote the book, When Someone You Love Wants to Die. What triggered that? What made you want to write this particular book?
Okay, so as my story evolved, I started to help other persons who are suicidal, who are having suicidal thoughts, and that's how I entered the space of mental health coaching. From that, and talking to family members of my clients, I realized that everybody wants to help.
Yeah.
You know, they love you, they want to help, but they don't necessarily know the right things to do or the right things to say, right? And I thought it was very necessary, from my point of view, to write a book such as this, When Someone You Love Wants to Die. It is a compassionate guide for family members of the depressed and suicidal, to help them to understand what it means to be suicidal.
It's so needed because so many times we do talk about the person that's feeling the depression, they get the help, but you forget about caregivers. Because we were talking about caregivers before, whether you're caregiving for somebody who has cancer or mental health or anything, it's those caregivers that they don't know how to be a caregiver if they've never been through this. Just think, well, just get better, or just go to counseling, or just take some medication. But you've been through it, and we were talking about this earlier as well. When we go through stuff, and we all do, the blessing is that we can turn around and help other people come through it because we've been through that exact thing, that exact emotion. I can't help people that are thinking about suicide. That hasn't been my journey. But I can help people through cancer and domestic violence, things that I have experienced. But it's important we show up. So we appreciate you for showing up. I have to end on a high note because we're almost out of time. Boy, time flies. I'm noticing a beautiful rock on your hand that's just flashing at me. So there's a happy ending here. Tell us where you are now with your children, and happily married now, maybe?
I am happily married to Keith. However, my children are still estranged for me at this time, but I continue to pray for them and hope that this will be resolved very soon.
And you're smiling, you keep on putting one foot in front of the other.
Yes.
You're not sitting in a hole somewhere just saying, this is all my life. You're saying, that's a part of my life and I want them back. But meanwhile, God has a purpose for my life.
Yes.
God has other people I can share and help, which also in turn help you as well. Well, tell everybody where they can get a hold of your books and a little bit about if you've touched their heart and they want to reach out and get some more hope and inspiration from you. Because maybe you just said some things, and I'm sure you have, that there's people out there saying, I felt the same way. I know you're going through exactly what I went through, or something similar. How can they get a hold of you?
I have two websites. They can go to Hylton, that's KHYLTON.com, or yestopurpose.com, and lots of information there.
I love that. I love that. I love that you're smiling. I love that you came on the show and you're so transparent. A lot of people don't want to talk about suicide. A lot of people don't want to talk about their trauma. And for you to do that, God bless you. And thank you for doing that and giving people hope.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. The unvarnished truth, purpose, and pain. Love that. And when someone you love wants to die. We needed these books. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you'll reach out to her. And meanwhile, we've got some more beautiful music to uplift us at this time with Greg Freeman, who is going to sing another original song, 12 Steps and a Leap of Faith. Take it away, Greg.
Saw her little girl last night for the first time in quite a while. She wants to break the cycle while she still can. The pain of losing her own mom, revolving doors of men who've gone, and an overdose are all that she can stand. As the social worker smiles and says it's time for us to go, the girl says, Mom, I pray that you get well and come back home. And soon she'll know that 12 steps and a leap of faith can change the course of yesterday, and faith makes the difference without a doubt. The good Lord's walking by her side, and everything's gonna be alright, taking 12 steps and a leap of faith. Sent to fight on foreign fields, but he came home with one less limb and an issue we all know as PTSD. He found it hard to settle in and numb the hurt with booze and pills. Did he survive a war to only live like this? Then one day his brother said, "You're not the hero I once knew. I used to think that I would like to someday be like you." But now he knows that 12 steps and a leap of faith can change the course of yesterday, and faith makes the difference without a doubt. Good Lord's walking by his side, and everything's gonna be alright, taking 12 steps and a leap of faith. Oh, their lives are far from perfect and prone to turning on a dime, but faith will help them overcome it one day at a time. Yes, 12 steps and a leap of faith can change the course of yesterday, and faith makes the difference without a doubt. The good Lord's walking by their side, and everything's gonna be alright, taking 12 steps and a leap of faith. Yeah, just taking 12 steps and a leap of faith.
Thank you again, Greg. These lyrics are beautiful, and it's so inspirational that you are writing these songs and inspiring others. Thank you so much. Going to meet him at just a little bit as well and find a little bit more about how he gets his inspiration for these songs and these lyrics, so don't go away. Meanwhile, I have a very special guest as well. Sitting right here with me is none other than Dennis Gardin, and he has a story that's going to really uplift you and give you hope, and it's pain and it's suffering and it's finding the light at the end of the tunnel. And just like we talked to before with Dr. Karla about reaching back and helping others through it like nobody else can except for you. And Dennis, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Oh my gosh, you have just been a pleasure. Just meeting you tonight, talking to you in the green room, hearing your story. It's like I didn't want to stop, but it's like, oh wait, let's get this on the air so others can hear.
I do kind of have a light, don't I?
Yes, you do. A whole aura around you. You really do. You're such a blessing. You've been through something traumatic, but God turned it around. But you really talk honestly, which we will in a moment, about how you're constantly dealing with some things that so many people going through stuff. This was a big stuff you're going to tell us about in a second. It happened when you were 14. And we think, oh, just when I come out the other side, I'll get to work. When I come out the other side, I'll be a servant of the Lord. You don't always, it's a lifelong journey because we go through experiences that'll always be there.
Yes.
So first, tell us about this experience you had at 14, and I want you to involve your mother's faith in this because God bless a mother of faith.
Yes, yes. And you know, we talk about the light at the end of the tunnel, but I believe the light is in the tunnel.
Oh, I like that.
You just have to walk in that light. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And I was, I won't say unfortunately, but I was burned in a gasoline explosion when I was 14. And I call it an incident today. I don't call it an accident because I recognize it was supposed to happen.
Oh, interesting.
And I was a 14-year-old that was pretty typical because I was so much smarter than my parents.
Of course.
And at 14, I knew it all. And I attempted to repair my dirt bike in the basement.
Oh, no.
Against my parents' wishes, and We thought we'd hide in the basement, work on the motorcycle, repair it, and be out riding, no harm, no foul. And this brilliant 14-year-old did not notice how close he was to the furnace in the hot water heater and spilled gasoline, went under the hot water heater, and it exploded.
Oh my gosh.
And I received a 70% of my body surface burned. And a 13-year-old buddy, he was a 20% burn. And
Wow.
and it's not so much the incident as much as how it changed my life completely.
You think,
know,
yeah.
my childhood had ended. And it was the
But
first.
your life really began.
My life really began
Just didn't
because it
know
was
it.
the first time my faith was tested. And I was raised in the church. I mean, we had to go to church. If you were sick all week and didn't go to school, you were still going to church on
Get healed
Sunday.
at church on Sunday.
But faith didn't apply to me. Faith was for those old people and sick people and people coming in church on walkers and canes. It wasn't for me. And this was the first time my faith was tested. And I didn't handle it very well. And I went through a long period where I hated God. I hated God. And I hated the firefighters for getting me out of the house. And the reality is I hated my situation and I hated myself because I was ugly. And I didn't know how to forgive myself because I didn't think I deserved to be forgiven. And more than what it did to me, how it changed the entire dynamics of our family. It really did. I remember us being rushed to the emergency room and my mom riding down with us, and a lot of attention was being focused on my buddy, and they weren't doing anything to me, and I assumed he was more badly injured than I was. And I later found out that they had recommended to my mother comfort care because there's no way your son's going to survive. So we want to make him as comfortable as possible until he expires. And my mom, and I'm here today
God bless
giving
your
thanks
mom.
for someone with strong faith, because she said, no,
Amen.
you're not going to make that decision, nor am I. She said, when God's ready to take him, God will take him, and there's nothing we can do about it. But as long as there's breath in his body, you would do whatever you can do to help him. And I did survive, obviously, and I was placed on life support for the first 3 weeks, then in a coma. And my mother sat vigil at my bedside. She was the sentinel at the gate. I mean, she literally sat at my bedside 24 hours for 3 weeks because she was not going to let anyone turn that machine off.
I love your mother.
But I think about what I went through, and I think about the decision she made, and in a lot of ways, it had to be more difficult for her. And as I was getting better, my condition was improving. I saw my mom's health diminishing. My mom's hair turned snow white. She had these constant bags under her eyes, and she had picked up probably 60, 65 pounds because she's living off the vending machine,
Right,
Coca-Colas and candy bars. And I think it's important to talk about today compassion fatigue, and it is real.
Interesting, yeah.
We oftentimes look at the person in the bed or who's suffering, and the person that's sitting next to the bed is invisible. But I want to talk about compassion fatigue because who takes care of the caregiver?
Amen.
And I would look at my mom sometime and she would look so exhausted and drawn, but she wouldn't leave the hospital if I was awake.
I don't blame her.
And there'd be times that I would pretend to be asleep so that she would leave. And she would gather her things up, and I'd hear her talking to the nurses at the nurses station, which was right by the elevator. And when I hear her say, "I'll see you guys tomorrow," and I'd hear that elevator door close, I just cried like a baby. Because I knew she needed to go, but little Dennis really wanted his mama to be there with
Sure.
him. And I would just bawl and cry.
But how unselfish of you at such a young age to do that for your mom. So she needs a break, she needs to rest. And some adults don't even think of that.
I don't know, because this was sort of an exaggerated situation. It really was. And there were plenty of other people. I'm from a large family, and we have a large circle of support,
Okay.
but no one was going to take care of her baby but her.
Right.
Of
course.
And we're a house full of kids. And the reality is, because my mom was there with me every day because she was a homemaker.
Right.
Back in the days when that was a noble profession.
Right, it still is.
She ran the house. Thank you. She ran the house, but now she's there with me every day. So what was the impact on my brothers and sisters?
How many brothers and sisters did you
There
have?
were 9 of us.
9 of you.
Yes.
Wow.
Plus cousins living in the house.
Big family.
You know, what was the impact on them? But she was determined to take care of me. And I got to mention my grandmother, my Big Ma.
Please.
My Big Ma she was one of those down south, hands-on praying kind of women.
Oh, one of the ones that make a difference.
And she would come down to that hospital and she would pray for the people in the lobby. She'd pray for the receptionist. She'd pray for the security guard. She'd pray folks on the elevator, and she would pray her way on to my room. And Big Ma would sit at my bedside and rub my feet for hours and pray and give thanks. My feet were the only part of my body that wasn't bandaged. And she would rub my feet and give thanks. And I couldn't understand, thankful for what? You know, look at, why aren't you angry with God as well? Look at what he done to your favorite grandchild. And why weren't you angry? And she said, no. She said, God's not punishing you. God is preparing you for something. But grandmothers are supposed to say that kind of stuff, right? That's what she was supposed to. And she said, one word in the Bible that people misinterpret, it's not give thanks for all things, you give thanks in all things. And she was constantly giving thanks, and they just continued to believe in me, you know, and they continued to pray for me. And there's power in prayer.
Oh, there is. They're proving
There's
it right
power in
there.
prayer. Because after 8 months, I got discharged. But I went home and hid in the house for 2 years because I was ashamed of how I look.
You're just a kid.
And you can't imagine how painful it was, because my nightly prayer was, God, let this be the night I die in my sleep.
Oh.
And I would wake up in the morning having my heart broken because I saw another sunrise.
Well, you must have been in a lot of pain, because only people like you that have been through like burning, we burn ourselves in the stone. We're like, ow, that hurts, and it hurts for days. Imagine 70% of your body being burned. That must have also been excruciatingly painful.
It was painful. It was, I don't even know the words to put to describe the pain, but I will say the isolation and loneliness was far more painful than the physical injury. And I tried everything, and you and I discussed this in the green room, that I tried everything before I turned back to God. And I hear people say, well, I knew God was there. That wasn't the case for me.
You were mad, yeah.
I was mad, and I tried everything else. And I wasn't walking down the street one day and the clouds parted and the sun shined right on me.
Oh, well.
And I heard this majestic voice call my name. It wasn't that at all.
What was it?
It was desperation that I had tried everything else, and God was a last resort for me. And when I turned back to God, he was as close as he always was.
Oh, he never left you.
He was embracing me the entire while.
How long was that from time the explosion came to the time you embraced God?
It had to be well over 10 years.
Really?
It had to be, you know. But once I turned back to him, I was able to begin moving forward. There was forward motion in my life.
Right.
And I realized that I was moving forward all the time. I just didn't embrace it because I was looking at myself as a monster. You know, I would look at that distorted reflection in the mirror, and I would count how many times that people would reject me or torment me and call me a name, and I would multiply that number by 10.
Yeah.
And that would be the number of times I'd stare in the mirror and just repeat, I love me, God loves me. Oh. So every negative thing I heard, I replaced it with 10 things, because there is power in the tongue.
There is. Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Life and death in the power of the tongue.
And your mom loved you, and your grandma loved you, and your family loved you. You got to remind yourself, which is so good for you to let the viewers know that too, that took 10 years, and then you didn't even like looking in the mirror. Imagine how many of us, all of us have all sorts of self-esteem issues, and then you were going through that and trying to find love in other people too, which were rejecting you. Let's fast forward a little bit, because I literally could talk to you all night. You're so inspirational. I just love your story. But let's fast forward so people can know about where you are now and how you're helping and how you got with Firefighters and the nonprofit organization you have now, you're executive of. Because you've done this, you've gone back now, and you're pulling others up, because you can help those that have been burned. Not somebody like me, but somebody like you, been there, done that, to give hope. And I love when people give hope.
Yes, yes. Well, I stumbled into the burn community.
Okay.
And it took me...
Whatever it takes.
It took me 20 years to see another burned person outside of a hospital. And I literally thought I was the only person. And for a series of circumstances, I stumbled into the burn community, and I had found my tribe. You know, I had found my people.
Oh,
and it was bittersweet, because now I know that I'm not alone and there are people who understand, but I also was made aware that there are other people who have suffered just as much as I have. But what it did for me, it gave purpose to what happened. And this thing that I thought was the worst tragedy in my life, it actually became the greatest blessing in my life, because working for the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation, and our catchphrase is help, hope, and healing beyond the burn, because there is help, hope, and there's healing beyond the burn, because life goes on. Once burned, always burned, but life goes on, and we're able to provide that support to folks.
It's important to have a community of like-minded people who have been through something similar
It's
to
important
relate to each other.
Yes, it's important to have community, because, you know, you get the flowery platitudes that I would hear all the time about, I know how you feel, it's gonna be okay.
We don't know how you feel.
And I would smile as a child, but I really, inside, I was screaming, how do you know?
Exactly.
How do you know?
Exactly.
And now we connect with people, because we have a large cadre of volunteers, firefighters and burn survivors, to help people whose lives have been impacted by the devastation of burn injury and trauma. And that is what we're able to do. We like to think the firefighters get people out of emergency situations. They get them to the hospital. The hospital does an amazing job. These burn centers across the country, 94% success rate now of serious burns.
That's fantastic.
And
wow.
when they're discharged, we like to think that's where we come in, where we can hold people's hands on their journey of recovery, however they define recovery.
Do you get like alerted? Because you know, nowadays the internet is such a great place now. It could be used for bad, but it's used for such good that back in our day, when, like I'm sure when this happened, there wasn't an internet.
Right.
There wasn't community relatively available. Everybody knew about it. There's a nonprofit on every corner for every situation. Like now there is.
Yeah.
Thank God there is. So do you get alerted from the hospitals if somebody comes in with a burn? How does your organization work?
Yeah, we have a very tight-knit relationship with both burn centers here in Georgia, the Grady Burn Center in Atlanta and the J.M. Steele Burn Center in Augusta. And we work together in terms of connecting us with folks who are there who need a little assistance or support, or they get involved with some of the programs that we do. And we have a children's burn camp where kids come together for a week with their sibling as well, because we recognize, and we've expanded upon the definition of burn survivor to include more than just a person physically injured, but everyone who's impacted by that injury. And it's been...
Because you experienced that yourself.
Experienced it, and silence can be so loud sometimes, and certain things just aren't talked about. But I think the most powerful thing we do at the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation is we allow people to give voice to how they feel. Because believe it or not, it took over 20 years for me to say out loud, I didn't like what happened to me.
Oh.
Because everybody was celebrating, everybody was praying for me, everybody was so thankful that I was alive. I didn't want to disappoint them.
Right.
But if I could just die in my sleep, all of this would be over. But now today, the very thing that caused me to hide in the house for 2 years, these scars are the very things that are a demonstration of God's grace and his mercy.
Amen.
And I give thanks for every scar on my body, because I recognize I couldn't have studied this. I couldn't have read it in a book. I had to experience that suffering that allows me to connect with people in their suffering, because there too I have suffered. And I'm thankful for every scar that I have.
I love that. Our battle scars. You know, I've had cancer. We call it the battle scar. You've thrived through it.
But I have to say, these scars have healed a long time ago.
It's the inside.
But it's the internal
Yeah.
scars of life, and we all got them. You know, and how do those scars manifest itself in our life?
And I love that you said in the very beginning, you said it wasn't an accident, it was an incident.
Yes.
Because everything does have a reason. And so many times we question God, why me, why me? When things happened to me that were tragic, it was like, why not me? Who am I not to have situations? And I know it's for a purpose, and it's okay to hate it while you're going through it. We wouldn't be human if we didn't hate it and wonder why, but say, okay, there's a reason. And in fact, you found it 10 years or 20 years later, it's okay. You found your purpose. And on that note, before we run out of time, you've got something very special you'd like to read to us. So break that out for us right now, because I want to make sure we get to that.
Okay, good deal. And this is called the Survivor Psalm.
Okay.
And it's by Dr. Frank Ochberg. And I found this in a magazine in my travels somewhere, and I tore the page out. And it's called the Survivor Psalm. I have been victimized. I was in a fight that was not a fair fight. I did not ask for the fight. I lost. There is no shame in losing such fights, only in winning. I have reached the stage of survivor, and I am no longer a slave of victim status. I look back with sadness rather than hate. I look forward with hope rather than despair. I may never forget, but I need not constantly remember that I was a victim, because I am now a survivor.
I love that.
And that is so powerful, because people do hold on tight to their victimhood.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that a problem is a perception and not a situation. When I thought this was a problem, I struggled.
Yeah.
But when I understood it was a purpose, then I'm good. It's
And that's so
all good.
hard when it happened to you. You were 14. I mean, middle school is hard enough as it is than to go through that. So it's different. It happens to an adult, but a kid. And then now you're also talking about how you still get flashes. I mean, that's always in there. That PTSD is always there, but you're dealing with it beautifully. So as we close, we only have like a minute or two left. Give the viewers some hope of when that does come back. Maybe they're thinking they're okay, but they get those flashbacks. Give us some words of hope on when that happens.
I think if I had any words of hope, that's putting a lot of pressure on me, but honor our feelings and embrace the journey. And I know that sounds simple enough, but it's not, and it's difficult. You know, my journey, it's difficult, but life is worth the investment. You know, if it's hard, do it hard. Because sometimes the things we think are the worst tragedies in our life, once we change our perspective, we begin to recognize that it's really the greatest blessing, because God makes no mistakes.
Amen. He really doesn't. And I love calling all of us that have been through trauma, things like that, survivors.
Survivors.
You are thriving. You have turned it around. You've turned your pain into purpose, like we were talking with Dr. Karla earlier. You really have. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and transparent and honest. And I love, before we came on, you said you can ask me anything. Nothing is off limits. So give us your website real quick, because we're going to put that on the screen.
The website is the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation, which is gfbf.org, goodfriendbestfriend.org, the Georgia Firefighters Burn Foundation. And if people want to know more about our organization or how to support us and get involved, just log onto the website or give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.
I love that. Dennis, thank you so much for being here. It's a blessing. And we're not done with you. I definitely know there's a lot of your future left to pursue.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And now we're back to Greg Freeman, who's going to sing for us another original song, Lord, you've been good to me. Yes, I can read. Take it away, Greg.
Lord, you've been good to me. Oh, Lord, you've been good to me. When I think of your goodness, how you meet every need, for the change you made, the price you paid for all eternity, and I never could thank you enough for abundant loving kindness and your tender mercies flowing from your hand and from your heart. For that's the kind of God you are, oh Lord. You've been good to me. For the many ways you blessed me, for your amazing grace, I will give you all the glory, all the honor, and the praise. for abundant loving kindness and your tender mercies flowing from your hand and from your heart, for that's the kind of God you are. Oh Lord, you've been good to me. Oh Lord, you've been good to me.
How wonderful it is to have this station available with these broadcasts, telecasts, so that you can be encouraged to make sure that you know that God sings over you when you come to Him for prayer. And so we would ask that you call Atlanta Live and let us talk with you and pray with you and show you in the scriptures how God can make you feel much better and change your attitude about life completely. The phone number that we have you call is 770-300-9828. Maybe you hear that phone ringing in the background. It's people who believe in prayer. The fervent prayer of the righteous avails much. And so would you do me a favor and pray tonight to the Lord, or give us a call, and we'll be glad to pray with you on the phone. In the meantime, trust Christ. Don't let Him down. He loves you. In Jesus' name, amen. Now back to the studio.
Thank you so much for all y'all do in the prayer room. We couldn't do this without you. That phone line is always up for y'all to call in for prayer or give us a testimonial too. We love to hear what God's doing in your life. So let us know the good news as well as the prayer needs. We're here Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live right here for you. Well, I kept promising you that wonderful singer you saw writing his own lyrics, singing with his beautiful voice. Greg Freeman was going to come and sit on these chairs with me, and here he is. Greg, welcome to the talk set.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
It's good to meet you for the first time. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've been here several times before from what I'm hearing.
I have.
So you're a pro at this. But it's my first time hearing your testimony, a little bit about you. So you're writing beautiful music. The lyrics were gorgeous. I love that you have that talent to write. Not everybody does. Some people just, will sing covers, which is great. But talk to me a little bit about your story, because your story started when you were very young, and your family life.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the beginning.
In the beginning, I was born
in the
at a young age.
I was adopted. So my adoption was a private one. I came into my parents' home when I was 3 days of age. And it was on a Wednesday, and they literally took me to church that night. So they were there Sunday morning without a newborn, and they were there with a newborn on Wednesday. Everyone was kind of blown away. And I was raised in church. And I grew up on old singing convention songs. Do you know what singing convention songs are?
No.
So that's not necessarily a thing of the American South, but it's mostly in the South, where people would get together and they'd sing all the different parts, the bass, the tenor, the alto, the soprano, whatever. And many of them were so well equipped they could actually sight read the notes, didn't need training. So, I'm not saying they didn't need training, they probably had it originally. But it was something that they learned early on to sing those harmonies. And I grew up on that kind of music. And so I was influenced by a lot of great gospel music, a lot of great artists when I was growing up. And my parents were generous enough, they took me to the concerts I wanted to go to. So all of that just rounded me out into the songwriter and the artist that hopefully I'm perfecting what I do as I go along because of all those great influences. I've had some great mentors too.
Like, what's one?
My friend Don Butler, he's now passed on. He's with the Lord. But Don was, he was a gentleman that came into my life. I actually sent him an email when I was very discouraged. The business can be kind of, we talk about the love of Jesus, but we don't always show it. The Christian music can be kind of mean.
Christians aren't perfect?
No, not at all. And Don gave me a lot of encouragement when I really needed it, because I had knocked on doors and I'd had some open, but it just kind of stopped at that. And so he urged me to keep going, and I don't think I would be where I am without him. Babby Mason is another
I was
one.
going to say, you're working with one of
Yeah.
our very own here
Yeah,
at WATC,
yeah. So
Babby.
Babby and I, we have written together numerous occasions, and I'm very fortunate to draw from the wisdom of great people like Don and Babby, who poured out in me not only their example as believers, but also as very good at the craft.
Right.
But also just taking the time. A lot of people who reach a certain level, they don't always take the time with the other younger artists coming along. And you know, Don was at one point executive director of the Gospel Music Association. I mean, he knew everybody. So, you know, he could have been really arrogant and said, you know, I don't have time for you.
Right.
Babby could have been very arrogant. I don't have time for you. I'm busy. I'm on tour, whatever. They were not like that. They both poured out into me, and I'm so grateful for that.
Got great people
Yeah.
here for sure, and that's so good to hear. And I'm so glad too, just like the other guests we had on earlier that went through traumas, that
Sure.
turned around and bring people up with your craft. It's another thing. It doesn't always have to be traumatic to reach back or reach down to the next generation. Say, here, let me help you up, and you're doing that. You're turning
Yes.
around. Somebody helped me, so you go back. And how do you do that now?
Well, but let me point out one thing I think that might be worth sharing. We don't all go through the same trauma, but we've all had something that's drastically affected us in some instances. In other cases, it's things that's helped us grow. It might not have been a tragic burn or a suicide attempt, but just things that have influenced who we are, the problems we've gone through, the challenges. And those, if you're in ministry, those are going to come out in what you say and do.
Yeah.
So as a songwriter, I draw from some of that, but also, you know, part of songwriting, you're a storyteller.
Yeah.
A good storyteller has to really convey it in a short, succinct message quickly. You don't have 15 minutes to do a song.
Right.
Most people would turn you away for that. And so you've got to get your point across very quickly. And so I have learned over the time, I'm still very wordy. That's one thing that I admit. I wax all poetic with my lyrics.
We'll write some poems too along the way.
But you know, you do realize you've got to make your words count.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely, you got to make them count.
Absolutely. Now, we only have like a minute left, so I want to ask you one last question in closing. What are you grateful for?
Well, you know, I look back on my life. I'm grateful for parents that gave me life. I'm grateful for parents that taught me how to live. And I'm grateful for Jesus Christ, who brought me into the greatest family of all.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what's up next for you? Tell us a little bit how people liked your music, which I'm sure they did tonight. How can they get a hold of some of your music?
Well, they can go to any of their favorite streaming platforms and access any of the songs that I've recorded.
Just look up your name?
Just look up my name. I have a website, gregfreeman.music, and I would love to interact with people on there. Love to hear. You know, I love to encourage people. So, I mean, I'm not begging people to tell me all their problems, but you know, if I can offer some words of encouragement, I want to do that. Absolutely.
I'm glad they can invite you to come into their church and have you out. Well, Greg, thank you so much. It was such a blessing. You rounded out this whole episode so beautifully with your voice. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for being with us here tonight as well on Atlanta Live. Until next time, we're here 5 days a week. And go see us on WATC.tv. Have a wonderful night. Good night.